He thought he was untouchable. From the 47th floor, Gregory Whitman looked down at the city and felt nothing. No empathy, no doubt, no hesitation. Power had taught him that some people existed to command and others existed to clean up the mess. And the black woman silently pushing a janitor's cart past his glass office every night? She barely registered as human in his world, until the day he decided to humiliate a room full of experts for fun. Until he dragged her into a meeting as a joke. Until she looked at a document no one in the room could read, and quietly asked if the reward was still valid. In that moment, something inside Gregory began to crack. Not loudly, not yet, but enough to make his heart pound with a fear he had never known before. Stay with this story, because what happens next will shatter reputations, expose buried truths, and force a powerful man to face a truth that will change his life forever. Gregory Whitman liked to say he could read a room in under 10 seconds. Power had trained him that way. On the 47th floor of Whitman Tower in downtown Chicago, the city looked smaller, obedient almost. Cars crawled like ants. People became dots. From up here, Gregory felt justified in believing what he'd believed for years. Some people were meant to rise and others were meant to serve. He leaned back in his Italian leather chair, fingers steepled, watching the reflection of himself in the glass wall. The tailored suit, the silver cufflinks, the calm authority of a man whose name moved markets. Then he laughed. Not a warm laugh, a sharp one. The kind that announced a performance was about to begin. $500 million, he said aloud, savoring each word. If you can translate this. Across the polished marble table sat 5 of the most respected linguists in the country. Doctorates, awards, years of scholarship. They stared at the brittle yellow document in front of them, a chaotic blend of ancient scripts that refused to settle into one language. They had been trying for days, failing. Gregory stood and paced slowly, enjoying the discomfort he created just by breathing. "You all charge fortunes for your expertise," he said casually, "yet none of you can make sense of a piece of paper my lawyers dug up from a family vault." One of them, Dr. Alan Pierce, swallowed. "Mr. Whitman, this text appears to combine multiple ancient language systems. It's embarrassing," Gregory cut in. "For you." The room went quiet. That was when the door opened. No announcement, no knock, just the soft squeak of a cartwheel crossing marble. Lillian Brooks stepped inside. She wore a navy blue janitor's uniform, neatly pressed, her hair pulled back in a low bun. She moved carefully, as if she were trained to take up as little space as possible. For 15 years, she had cleaned this floor before dawn and after dark. She knew the office better than anyone, and yet to men like Gregory Whitman, she barely existed. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, eyes lowered. "I didn't realize you were in a meeting." She reached for the door again. "No," Gregory said, smiling. "Stay." All eyes turned to her. "This," Gregory announced, gesturing grandly, "is Lillian. She keeps my office spotless. Lillian, tell these people your highest level of education." The question landed heavy. Lillian hesitated. She felt it, the familiar tightening in her chest, the old calculation. "How much truth is safe today?" "I finished high school," she said simply. Gregory clapped once. "Marvelous. And here we have 5 intellectual giants who can't do what she does every day. Clean up a mess." The linguists looked away. Shame colored their faces, not for themselves, but for her. Gregory's eyes gleamed. "Lillian, come here." Her shoes echoed as she approached the table. "Look at this document," he said, sliding it toward her. "These experts can't read it. Do you think you can?" The laughter came easily this time, cruel, confident. Lillian stared at the page, and for just a fraction of a second, so brief it escaped everyone except Professor Mei Lin Zhao, something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, but Lillian lowered her gaze. "I wouldn't know where to start, sir," Gregory smirked. "Exactly." He turned back to the scholars. "Now then, Dr. Pierce, let's resume this farce." One by one, they tried, and failed. The text twisted through ancient Mandarin structures, then dissolved into classical Arabic syntax, then fractured again into something older, something deeper. Every attempt ended the same way: confusion, fragmented translations, apologetic silence. With each failure, Gregory grew bolder. Pathetic. My landscaper probably knows more languages than you. Lillian stood by the wall, hands folded over the handle of her cart. She had heard insults like these before, just never delivered so publicly, never aimed so deliberately. When the final linguist stepped back, defeated, Gregory spread his arms in triumph. As expected, he said, all frauds. He paused, then smiled. Which means you each owe me $1 million. The room froze. That was when something inside Lillian finally snapped. Not loudly, not violently, but completely. She stepped forward. Excuse me, Mr. Whitman. Gregory turned, irritated. What is it now? The offer, she said evenly. Is it still valid? He blinked. What offer? The $500 million, she replied, for anyone who can translate the document. A ripple of discomfort passed through the room. Then Gregory laughed harder than before. Lillian, he said, wiping his eyes, you mop floors for a living. Do you honestly believe you can do what 5 PhDs could not? She met his eyes. For the first time in 15 years, she didn't look away. Yes, she said. Silence swallowed the room. Gregory pushed the document toward her with theatrical flair. Be my guest. Lillian picked it up. She didn't rush. She read the first line slowly. Then she spoke, in flawless classical Mandarin. The sound of it, precise, ancient, controlled, hit the room like a physical force. Gregory's smile froze. Dr. Pierce's mouth fell open. Professor Zhao whispered, That's Tang Dynasty Mandarin. Without pausing, Lillian transitioned into 7th century Arabic, her pronunciation exact, reverent. Then Vedic Sanskrit, flowing with a rhythm so old it felt sacred. Then ancient Hebrew, then classical Persian. Gregory stumbled back against the table. This is impossible, he muttered. Lillian finished the final line and looked up. Would you like the full translation? She asked calmly. Or is this enough? Gregory couldn't answer. The woman he had ignored, mocked, reduced to a uniform, stood before him as something else entirely. Not invisible, not small, uncontainable. And for the first time in his life, Gregory Whitman felt fear, not of losing money, but of realizing how wrong he had been about the world beneath his feet. This moment changed everything, but only if someone was brave enough to face the truth. So let me ask you, did Gregory deserve what happened to him? Yes or no? Answer honestly, because what happens next will force everyone in that room, and everyone watching, to choose a side. The silence after Lillian Brooks finished reading was not the peaceful kind. It was the kind that presses on your chest, the kind that exposes things people work their whole lives to hide. Gregory Whitman stood frozen, one hand gripping the edge of the table, as if the room had tilted beneath him. The document lay open in front of Lillian, but it was no longer the most unsettling thing in the room. She was a black woman in a janitor's uniform who had just shattered every assumption he had ever used to justify his power. That was memorized, Gregory said suddenly, his voice sharp, defensive. A trick. Professor Mei Lin Zhao turned slowly toward him. No, she said. That was comprehension. Deep comprehension. Dr. Alan Pierce nodded, his face pale. She didn't just read it. She understood the grammatical evolution, the cultural references. You can't fake that. Gregory's jaw tightened. Then explain it, he snapped, turning back to Lillian. Explain how someone who cleans my office speaks dead languages better than people who dedicated their lives to them. The words hung heavy, cleans my office, as if they explained everything. Lillian closed the document carefully and placed it on the table. She didn't rush. She didn't flinch. Her hands were steady, but her chest burned with something old and familiar. She had waited 15 years for this moment. I didn't learn these languages here, she said quietly, and I didn't learn them for you. Gregory scoffed. Then where? She lifted her chin. At the University of Cambridge, she said, before I came to this country, before I learned what it means to be brilliant and invisible at the same time. A murmur rippled through the room. That's impossible, one of the executives muttered. We ran background checks. Lillian turned toward him. You ran employment checks, she corrected. Not curiosity checks. Gregory laughed, short, bitter. You expect us to believe you were some kind of academic prodigy who just decided to mop floors in Chicago? Lillian met his gaze. No, I expect you to believe I survived. She took a breath. I was Dr. Lillian Brooks long before I became Lillian from cleaning. I held 2 doctorates. I published papers you probably skimmed and forgot. I was invited to conferences where my name mattered, until it didn't. The linguists leaned forward, listening now like students. My husband, she continued, her voice steady but tight, was also an academic, white, respected, and deeply uncomfortable with the fact that my work outpaced his. Gregory shifted uncomfortably. When I was offered a department chair position in Europe, and she said, he didn't celebrate, he panicked. And when panic wasn't enough, he sabotaged me. She paused, letting the weight of that word settle. He altered my research, spread rumors, accused me of plagiarism. By the time I realized what was happening, my reputation was already buried. Professor Zhao covered her mouth. And when I tried to defend myself, Lillian went on, I learned something else. That a black woman raising her voice in academia is not seen as confident. She's seen as unstable. The room stayed silent. I lost everything, she said. My career, my network, my credibility, and then I found out I was pregnant. Gregory swallowed. I came to the US because I believed it would be different, Lillian said. Because people said talent mattered here. Because I wanted my daughter to grow up believing she could be anything. Her voice wavered for the first time. So I took the job I could get, then the next one, and the next, and I learned how to become invisible so my child could eat. Gregory opened his mouth, then closed it again. You watched me for years, Lillian said, turning fully toward him now. You joked. You humiliated people. You assumed intelligence had a uniform, and it looked like yours. That's not fair, Gregory snapped. I didn't know. You didn't ask, she cut in. And that's the point. Her words struck harder than anger ever could. For 15 years, she continued, I listened to men with a fraction of my education explain the world to each other while stepping over me like furniture. I listened to jokes about diversity hires, about attitude, about knowing your place. She gestured to her uniform. This made it easy for you. Gregory's face flushed. If you were so qualified, why didn't you say something? Lillian's eyes darkened. Because I've seen what happens to black women who do. No one spoke. Because I watched people get fired for less, she said. Because I needed health insurance. Because my daughter needed stability. And because every system in this building was designed to protect you, not people like me. Gregory stepped back as if struck. Then she said it, the sentence that ended the argument. You didn't lose $500 million today, Lillian said softly. You lost the comfort of believing you were better. The executives shifted uneasily. One of them cleared his throat. Gregory, maybe we should take a break. No, Gregory said. His voice was hoarse now. No, I want to hear this. Lillian nodded slowly. Then hear this too. She slid the document back toward him. The text you asked us to translate, she said, is about arrogance. About men who believed wealth made them wise. It warns that the loudest voices often miss the deepest truths. She recited the final line from memory, now in English. True power is not measured by how many people fear you, but by how many lives you uplift when you finally see them. Gregory sank into his chair. For the first time, the office felt small. I kept quiet, Lillian said, until today. Because today you didn't just insult me. You tried to destroy 5 people who dedicated their lives to learning, just to entertain yourself. She looked at the linguists, then back at him. And I was done being silent. Gregory stared at her, his voice barely audible. What do you want? The question surprised everyone, including him. Lillian considered it carefully. I want what you promised, she said, and I want you to remember this moment every time you think power makes you untouchable. The room held its breath. Gregory nodded slowly. A deal is a deal, he said. You'll have the money. But Lillian didn't smile. Good, she said, because what I do with it will matter more than how you earned it. And in that moment, Gregory Whitman understood something terrifying and irreversible. This was no longer his story to control. The transfer went through at 9:17 a.m. Gregory Whitman stared at the confirmation screen longer than he had ever stared at any deal in his life. $500 million, gone with a click. He expected panic, or regret, or the familiar rush of control. Instead, he felt something else. Relief. Lillian Brooks stood across from him, calm, composed, the same woman who had cleaned this office for years, and yet somehow felt entirely new in the space. Not because of the money, not because of the languages, but because she was no longer carrying the weight of being unseen. "Before I leave, she said, "there's something you should understand." Gregory nodded. "I'm listening." "I didn't do this to humiliate you," Lillian said. "I did it to stop you, to stop the harm, to stop the silence." He swallowed. "I believe you." She studied him carefully, the way scholars study fragile artifacts, not to judge, but to understand whether they can be restored. "I'm not interested in revenge," she continued. "I'm interested in repair." The word hung in the air. "Repair," Gregory repeated quietly. "Yes," she said, "because what happened here isn't just about you. It's about systems, about who gets heard, about who gets erased." Gregory looked around his office. The marble, the glass, the symbols of success he once worshipped. For the first time, they felt hollow. "What would repair look like to you?" he asked. Lillian took a breath. This was the question she hadn't allowed herself to imagine until now. "First," she said, "my daughter will never have to apologize for her brilliance. Jasmine will finish medical school without debt. She will walk into rooms knowing her worth." Gregory nodded. "Second," Lillian continued, "I'm creating a scholarship fund for service workers, people who were told their minds didn't matter because their hands worked for a living." His chest tightened. "That's powerful." "And third," she said, her voice steady, "I want stories told, real ones, about immigrants, about Black professionals, about people whose credentials were dismissed because they didn't fit someone else's comfort." Gregory leaned forward. "Let me help." She raised an eyebrow. "Help how?" "Not with control," he said quickly. "With access, infrastructure, visibility. I can open doors that were closed to you, to them." Lillian didn't answer immediately. "You'd still walk away if I say no," Gregory added. "I know that." She smiled faintly. "You're learning." They shook hands, not as employer and employee, not as winner and loser, but as two people standing at the edge of something unfamiliar. Change. 3 months later, Whitman Holdings looked different. Not just on paper, though the numbers surprised everyone. Productivity rose. Turnover dropped. Profits stabilized. But it was the atmosphere that changed first. Gregory stopped working behind closed doors. He walked floors he had never set foot on. He listened. Really listened. And Lillian Brooks, now introduced everywhere as Dr. Lillian Brooks, led the Inclusion and Advancement Initiative with quiet authority. No speeches, no theatrics, just standards, accountability, dignity. Some executives resisted, a few resigned. One tried to undermine the changes and was exposed by his own data. Gregory didn't stop it. He learned something important during those months. Leadership wasn't about being admired. It was about being honest enough to change. The press caught on. Headlines followed. Not sensational ones, but curious ones. The CEO who lost a bet and found his conscience. The janitor who was never just a janitor. Lillian avoided interviews. When asked why, she answered simply, "This isn't about me being exceptional. It's about how many people were never allowed to be." One evening after the building emptied, Gregory found her in the lobby. "You could have disappeared," he said, "taken the money, left us all behind." She nodded. "I thought about it." "What made you stay?" Lillian looked around at the security guard chatting with a junior analyst, at the custodian laughing with an engineer, at the subtle shift that told her the silence had been broken. "I stayed," she said, "because my daughter deserves a world where brilliance isn't punished for wearing the wrong skin." Gregory exhaled slowly. "And you?" she asked. "Why did you stay?" He didn't answer right away. "Because for the first time," he said finally, "I don't hate the man I see in the mirror." 6 months later, the annual company gathering filled the ballroom. Employees stood side by side, executives and maintenance staff, interns and managers. Gregory took the stage last. He didn't speak about profits. He didn't speak about growth. He spoke about humility. I once believed success meant standing above everyone else, he said. I was wrong. Real success is standing with them. He gestured toward Lillian. She didn't just translate a document, he said. She translated my ignorance into responsibility. The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was earned. Later that night, as the lights dimmed, Lillian checked her phone. A message from Jasmine. Mom, my attending asked where I learned to stand my ground like this. Lillian smiled. Tell her you come from a long line of women who refuse to disappear. She looked up at the city skyline. No longer distant, no longer small. And for the first time in a long time, she felt whole. Not because she was finally seen, but because she made sure others would be too. Now it's your turn. How did this story make you feel? Did it change the way you think about success, power, or dignity? If you felt something while listening, comment 1 and 11 below so we know you stayed to the end. Tell us, what country are you watching from? And if this story moved you, please share this video, because stories like this matter, and someone out there needs to hear it today.